Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 659, 659, January the 11th, 2019, Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Unbelievable. Huge amount of news today, so let's get to it. Well, Trump was down at the border of Texas on Thursday. He was there with Senators Corzine and Cruz. He was talking directly with the border agents. He was shown just in last 24 hours the amount of drugs that were confiscated and all sorts of other things, contraband. He was told right there by the head of the Border Patrol how many people that they've captured just in the last few days, and also brought up the fact that they are now finding hundreds and hundreds of people, a large percentage of people, coming not just from Central America and South America, but coming from everywhere in the world, including Eastern Europe, the Czech Republic, the Middle East, Pakistan, everywhere. They're coming from everywhere, coming up and crossing over the border. So excellent. About 2 weeks ago, I said at the beginning of this thing, I said it's going to all come down to who has the best PR campaign. And I encouraged Trump to get out there and to have a PR statement every single day to point out the criminal felons who are illegals, who are committing crimes in this country every day, and to highlight this every day, because I said you must win this PR campaign. That's what this will all come down to, is who has the best PR campaign. And I was a little concerned there for a few days, but now it looks like Trump's gotten the message, and they've really stepped it up in the last couple of days. And today is exactly what I'm talking about. You go down to the border and you show everyone, you let them see the border agents, you let them see the contraband that's being discovered. You get the numbers straight from the horse's mouth. There's no denying what's happening on the border. Excellent move by President Trump today to go down to the border. Excellent piece of PR work there. That really resonates with people. They will really see that. It will really resonate. It's a huge factor, and it was a great move by Trump, and this is exactly the type of thing that he has to keep up, although I don't think it's going to go on for very much longer because, quite honestly, I think he's going to be forced to declare a national emergency, and I'll tell you why here in just a moment. So, great move by President Trump on the PR side, and he's going to win this fight big time. I mean big time. So now let's go to the next piece of news. We get Lindsey Graham, which is part of this. Okay, so now we get Lindsey Graham coming out today with a statement saying that Trump must use emergency powers and declare a national emergency to get the wall funding. That's right, Lindsey Graham makes that statement today. Less than 24 hours ago, or about 24 hours ago, he said the exact opposite. He said he didn't think that declaring a national emergency would be a good idea. So what happened? Well, let me tell you what happened. Graham had a meeting with 5 senators. The 5 senators are usually the ones who are wavering. They're not big fans of Trump, like Murkowski, Susan Collins, and a few other typically people who don't side with Trump. Because he thought if he could get a plan that these people would buy onto, that would be the hardest people to get to go along with it. And from there, he could easily get the rest of the Republican senators. He could then take that to Pelosi and Schumer and then to Trump and say, okay, I got your problem solved. And his plan was to give something that he believed that Nancy and Chuck simply could not walk away from, which is he was going to promise them that he could get Trump to go along with giving the Dreamers a pathway to citizenship. All the Dreamers a pathway to legal citizenship in return for the wall. So Lindsey Graham thought there's no way that Nancy and Chuck can turn this down. I'm going to get them and get Trump to agree to it and get these 5 senators that I need to stand behind us on the wall, the Republicans. I'm going to get them. Then I'm going to get Nancy Pelosi and Chuck, and I'm going to tell them that we're going to get Trump to grant amnesty, or essentially a legal path to citizenship for all the Dreamers in exchange for the wall. And Lindsey Graham believed he could get that done, probably because of conversations he's had with Trump. So Lindsey Graham's thinking he's got this thing solved. He gets the 5 Republican senators to go along with the deal. And then he, through an intermediary, pitches Chuck and Nancy. Says, hey, guess what? I can get Trump to grant a pathway to citizenship for the dreamers. All you got to do is give them $5 billion for the wall. I got the votes. All we need is for you to bring it to the floor in the House, and then I'll take care of it in the Senate. Chucky won't even have to bring any Democrats on board. I got them all. I got all the Republicans I need in the Senate side. So every one of your Democrats, Chucky, can vote against it. I got the Republicans. I just need Nancy to bring it up in the House. She shot it down. No deal. Pelosi shot it down. She had the opportunity, along with Chucky, to have a pathway to citizenship for all those dreamers, and she said no. That probably blew Graham's mind. He probably blew a fuse. You can see the smoke rolling out of his ears. He cannot believe that it's that bad. But now he knows how bad it is. And that's what prompted him to totally flip-flop 180 degrees and say, nope, Trump has to declare a national emergency. That's the only way it's going to get done. Because he knows, and he'll be telling Trump as soon as he gets back from his trip, Mr. President, I offered Nancy Pelosi and Chuck that I would convince you to give the dreamers a pathway to citizenship because of conversations we've had. And she said no. And if she says no to that, there's nothing you can offer. Nothing. As I told you guys, Pelosi and Schumer have no plan. This is the plan. No. Obstruct. That's it. That's all they got. People thinking, oh, the Pelosi and Schumer got a plan. They got a step 1, step 2, step 3 plan. No, they don't. They've never had a plan. Their only plan is no. And that's coming from higher up than them. Never had a plan, just like I told you. The only plan they got is resist. No to everything. That is the plan. And they're going to get burned on this deal. Badly. Very, very badly. Because Trump is likely going to do just as I said he would do yesterday. Now he's gone down to the border. He'll probably make 1 or 2 more overtures to Nancy and Chuck. He'll send his people out on Sunday morning to make the final case. He'll give them one last shot on Monday after doing all the PR, after making sure he's got a solid message. He's given the address to the people. He's gone down to the border. They've seen it directly from the Border Patrol people themselves, right from their lips. They've seen the drugs. They've seen the contraband. All the evidence is there. It's an overwhelming case. They just turned down DACA. Trump's going to say that I was willing to give the dreamers a pathway to citizenship. And they still said no, which tells me that they are never, there's nothing we can offer them to get them to secure the border. I have no choice. They've left me no choice but to declare a national emergency. And Trump doesn't want to do this. He does not want to do this. It's not the way he wants to do it. But it's very clever the way he did this, because now it's going to be Trump, and he's going to have to say, look, you know, when you've got Lindsey Graham, and by tomorrow, Lindsey Graham will have a bunch of Republicans on board, senators on board as well, probably Cruz and Cornyn and some others. He'll have enough Republicans on board. They're going to say to Trump, Trump, you got to declare a national emergency. So in this way, it's not Trump coming out and saying, hey, I'm declaring a national emergency. It's going to be Trump coming out and saying, I'm being told that the only thing I can do by the senators, by the Congress, who've tried to negotiate with Pelosi and Schumer, that there's nothing we can offer them to get them to secure the border. I've shown you what a crisis it is. There's another caravan building. It's coming this way. We have got to do this. And they're leaving me no choice. I have no choice but to do exactly what these members of Congress say I must do. Declare a national emergency. Boom. There you go. He's going to declare a national emergency, and then shortly thereafter, he's going to reopen the government, sign the spending bills to get the government open, and then he will get credit for reopening the government and for securing the border. And Nancy and Chuck are going to be on the outside looking in, having just been blown out. I mean, literally blown out. This is going to be, this is epic. This could literally cause both of them to lose their leadership positions. You cannot blow something this bad. You can't blow something this bad and stay in your leadership position. It's nearly impossible. I can't imagine how they could stay in their positions after blowing this bad. This is going to reverberate for a long time to come. It's really going to be costly. And man, oh man, I've never seen a worse play than this. This has got to be about as bad as anything I've ever seen. And when the Democrats find out, and all them dreamers find out, that Pelosi and Schumer had a chance to offer a pathway to citizenship for all them dreamers, and they said no over a $5 billion border wall, think how upset they're going to be. I'm telling you, this is an epic fail for Nancy and Chuck. Epic fail. Michael Cohen is going to testify. Yeah. And here's another thing that's going to blow up in their face. Because they want Michael Cohen to sit there and say in front of Congress that Trump knew about the fact and he was in the room and said, yeah, I want you to pay off Saggy. Oh, and by the way, I want you to have this National Enquirer to buy the story from the other woman, and then we are going to pay him not to run the story. And that's how we're going to solve this problem. This is what they want Michael Cohen to say. He is going to deny anything in the dossier about him being in Prague, which is the Trump-Russia connection in the dossier. Cohen's going to flat deny that. How's that going to look? Because that's exactly what he's going to do. He is going to flat deny that anything in the dossier about him being in Prague or him having anything to do with Trump-Russia collusion, him colluding with Russians or anything like that, he is going to say it was all BS. So what does that leave him? Well, that leaves him the, payments to the two women. And that was, Trump did nothing illegal. There's nothing illegal about that. Even if Trump did say, yeah, I want you to go ahead and pay off her and pay off the National Enquirer, and they're going to buy the story and you're going to pay him to sit on it. It's very easy. Lawyers do it all the time for wealthy clients. This is what is going to happen. And so it's not going to be any big bombshells, but the Democrats think that they can play it up in the media and make it look like something it's not. But here's the other part of that, is that Cohen's also going to be questioned by Republicans. Oh, yes, that's right. And let's face it, the dude's a bald-faced liar and a bit of a scumbag, and he's going to be exposed. And once they get through with Cohen, proving that he's a bald-faced liar and cannot be trusted, his credibility's ruined. Anything he says is just going to go down the tubes. This will get about 24 hours in news, and that'll be it. People forget all about it. Cohen will go to jail. It'll be long gone in people's minds come 2020 when it counts. This is going to be another epic fall-on-your-face fail by the Dems. This is not going to do anything except make Cohen look really bad and I'm surprised he's going to do it. I mean, he knows that he's going to get his credibility destroyed by Republicans on that committee. Yeah, the Democrats are going to kiss up to him, but the Republicans are going to destroy him and get him to admit that he's a bald-faced liar and that he was never in Prague and that nothing in the dossier or Trump-Russia, any of that. I mean, this has a tendency to be far more damaging to the Democrat side of the equation than it does to Republicans. As far as Michael Cohen, nobody gives a damn. The Republicans and Trump don't give a damn about his character being assassinated. If he volunteered to come into Congress to allow himself to be destroyed, what can you say about that? I mean, he volunteered. If I was Cohen, I wouldn't do it, knowing good and well what my background is and the statements I've made and the false statements I've made. So I can't imagine what Cohen thinks he's going to get out of this, but it's going to backfire on him. And he's on his way to jail. That's your chief witness. Yeah, the guy who's on his way to jail, who did nothing but lie. And the only thing that really could be damaging is if he sat there and said, yeah, I was in Prague and I was doing a Russia collusion deal. But he's not going to say that. He's going to deny it. That's the only thing that could really be of anything. And it ain't going to happen. I've never seen more incompetence. It's Trump derangement syndrome. It's causing these people to do things that no sane, reasonable person would do. These are horrible tactics and miscalculations. I guess they're grasping at anything because I guess they believe in the PR war they can win. But Michael Cohen is the last person I would bring in to try to make my case. Unbelievable what we're witnessing right here. More information now about this latest guy found dead in the home of Mr. Buck, the Hillary donor. So this guy here, his name was Timothy Dean. He was 55, a black man. He apparently, they haven't given the cause of death. I mean, the last guy died from overdose on methamphetamine. We don't know what this guy's cause of death was yet. They're just saying he passed away in the home in Buck's home while Buck was there. Buck was there when the guy died. And this guy Dean worked at Saks Fifth Avenue, I guess in West Hollywood, which is where he lived. And there's another person saying that Dean had gone to Buck for help. What kind of help do you think Mr. Buck offers? The last guy that went to for help ended up dying of a methamphetamine overdose, and apparently this is what we're told this guy does. He finds drug-addicted homosexuals, preferably black ones, and he invites them to his home, and I guess in exchange for whatever, he gives them drugs. And he killed the last guy. Maybe he killed this guy too. Who knows? What a freak show. How's this guy not in jail? Jeff the Flake. Jeff the Flake is in talks with CBS. CBS. Oh yes, they're going to give Jeff Flake a show so that he can sit there for the next 2 years and bash Trump from CBS. I'm sure that'll go over really well. I mean, it's not like Democrats like Flake. This is always, I always am amused by Republican turncoats who think that when they turn and show their true colors, that somehow the left is going to embrace them and give them hero worship status. It's not what happens. It never happens. It doesn't. The Democrats are still going to go out with Jeff Flake. He was a Republican. Yeah, he didn't like Trump, but he's a Republican. They're not going to have any love for Jeff Flake. What do they think what's he going to run for the Democrat nomination and think he's going to win? Go ahead and try it. See how many Democrats support you, Jeff the Flake. And then you'll find out really quickly these people don't want nothing to do with you either. They only want to, only when you're the useful idiot out there bashing Trump do they have a purpose for you. And after that, they don't need you anymore. Kick your ass to the curb. It appears that Ocasio-Marty Feldmanized-Cortez, her campaign has been fined $1,500 for failing to provide workers' compensation coverage for employees that worked on her campaign. Of course, Ocasio-Marty Feldmanized-Cortez is a communist and a champion for workers' rights. This just in. Nancy Pelosi says there is no crisis at the border. But there certainly is one in the Democratic Party, and it's coming. Believe me. Roger Stone says that I don't know who we is, but I assume he means his lawyers, we will reveal who Henry Greenberg is and why the FBI let him into the country and why he tried to set me up. Well, let me save you some time, Roger, because I covered this back a year ago. We know who Henry Greenberg is. He's Russian. He was brought into the country. In fact, his name is so crazy, it's got like 19 letters in it. None of them are vowels. A lot of C's, Z's, Y's, and S's. He's a Russian who was brought into the country on a very, very special type of visa. A visa known as an informant's visa. An informant visa. Visas granted by the FBI to foreign citizens who are coming into the United States to act as informants for the FBI. He goes by the name Hank Greenberg, but he's a Russian and he's known mostly by his Russian name. He's a lengthy criminal record. He's known to be a little on the violent side. He's kind of crazy, got some bad problems with alcohol, but he's done a lot of work for the FBI as sort of an agent. He approached Michael Caputo first, who then said, well, I guess you want to talk about giving. He approached Caputo and said they had emails, Hillary emails for sale. Caputo said, well, I just left the campaign. I have nothing to do with it anymore. I don't care. Call Roger Stone. Here's the number. So they met together. They had a 15-minute meeting. He demanded a crazy amount of money, like $200,000 or something, or $2 million. I can't believe it. Remember how much it was, but a lot of money. Roger Stone laughed at him. Said, "I wouldn't pay you. Trump certainly wouldn't pay you for damaging. We don't need to pay for damaging information on Hillary Clinton. There's a boatload of it for free. Get out of my face." And that was the end of that. But yes, we know who Mr. Greenberg is. He's a Russian who has a lengthy career of working for the FBI. He was brought into the country on a special FBI informant visa. Thank you very much. Judicial Watch is seeking depositions from Ben Rhodes and Susan Rice in regards to the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, digging away, digging away, digging away. Certainly hope the judge grants that. The last couple of verdicts or decisions by the judge in several of these cases Judicial Watch is working on have gone their way. Let's hope this one does too. Man, oh man, you are not going to believe this. Many of you are familiar with the part of the dossier where it talks about Trump Tower, a server in Trump Tower communicating with some Russian server. That server turned out to be, once the investigation was done, Alpha Bank. But it turned out to be just a marketing server and just a bunch of stuff going on. No real communication, just automatic pinging of these servers because of some marketing campaign. These were completely irrelevant to anything having to do with Alpha Bank or Trump or anything about his businesses or anything else. It was an old marketing server. It was getting pinged. There was nothing there. It was thoroughly investigated. Even the FBI could find nothing after they investigated. Right? We know that, right? And of course, now we know that Alpha Bank is suing Christopher Steele for defamation. And I think someone else too. It's not just Christopher Steele, someone else as well being sued. So now the court hearings are underway in the civil case, and information is coming out. And guess what we have learned? Well, keep in mind, before I go into that, we had learned about, 3-4 months ago, that in fact there was a FISA warrant on Trump Tower. Now we know that Mike Rogers went to Trump Tower and talked to Donald Trump, and we know that the next day after Mike Rogers briefed Trump, Trump pulled out his campaign team out of Trump Tower and went to his golf course in New Jersey. We can only assume from that Mike Rogers told Trump, "Hey, I hate to tell you this, but this place is wired for sound, brother. Wired for sound." Well, that's because of a FISA warrant. But we never really knew how they got the FISA warrant or what specifically they were looking at. Well, we now know. It was that server that was being pinged by a marketing company that somehow was also pinging this Russian bank, Alpha Bank. Now, this has all been cleared, and they found there's nothing there. But at the time, it's one of the things that they used, which was in the Steele dossier, to get the FISA warrant on Trump Tower. They got the FISA warrant to spy on Trump Tower based on this information about the server in Trump Tower being pinged by some marketing company that also was pinging Alpha Bank. We now know who was behind the tip to the FBI, and somehow it ended up in Steele's dossier. We now know who is behind it. You ready for this? A female professor from Indiana University named Jean Camp, C-A-M-P. A hardcore, rabid, rotten Reverend Clinton supporter who also owns a little computer company. She's a computer expert and has a team of people. She began her own little investigation surveilling Trump's server, basically hacking into Trump's server. And she discovered these pings and found that these pings were some going to this Russian bank, Alpha Bank. via a third-party marketing company. And it was that information that she passed to the FBI that led to that FISA warrant on Trump Tower. And then that information ended up somehow in Steele's dossier. How did Ms. Camp's information that she passed to the FBI to get a FISA warrant on Trump Tower, how did it find its way to London, into Steele's purview, and into the dossier? What is the connection between Ms. Camp and Christopher Steele? Well, there's two, namely, that we can think about right off the top of our head. One would be, of course, the FBI. But was the FBI feeding Christopher Steele information that he put in his dossier, which he then fed back to them? Is that possible? Did the FBI give that information to someone else who then passed it to Steele? Did they write it in there to themselves? But there's another person involved who would have been someone who would have known both Ms. Camp, or may have had contact with Ms. Camp and Christopher Steele. And that would have been the rotten Reverend Clinton, or someone very close to her. Can you imagine Ms. Camp coming up with this information and then saying, uh-oh, this is some juicy stuff. And then she probably contacted someone in the Hillary campaign. Probably contacted someone in the Hillary campaign, who then probably said, hey, thanks for the information. And they probably passed it on to Steele, who put it in his dossier and shipped it over to the FBI. And then they got their second copy, their confirmation. The first coming from Ms. Camp, and then the second coming from Steele. Although we can now see that they both came from Ms. Camp. Exactly the same thing we saw with the Isikoff article, where they used Christopher Steele and then the Isikoff article to get the FISA on Carter Page, despite the fact that Christopher Steele was the source of both. Circular reporting. A lot of circular stuff going on here. This is exactly what they did here. Just another massive expose about the dossier, the frame-up, and the massive, massive illegal activities of the FBI. Once this was investigated and they found that that was completely silly, that there was nothing more than an old computer in Trump Tower that had been used for marketing purposes, which was just being pinged by a third-party marketing company, which happened to also be doing some third-party marketing to this Alpha Bank. And now Alpha Bank is suing Christopher Steele and I think someone else. I can't remember who else. And this is how we know about this. It's coming out in the civil suit. What do you think of that? Oh, I'm sure you're probably pinching yourself right now going, holy shit. Can you believe that? Can it get any worse? Can it get any worse? Well, my friends, yes it can. Yes, it can get worse. Son of a bitch. It can get a lot fucking worse. And I'm about to tell you how. Do you remember when Devin Nunes was forced to step down from being the head of the House Intelligence Committee for an ethics violation investigation? Do you remember why? Because he went over to the White House to a skiff and observed some things in the skiff. And he went and briefed Trump. Now, up to this time, we have believed all this time that it was Adam Bug-Eyed Fool Schiff who was responsible for Nunes having to step down as leader of the House Intelligence Committee and essentially go underground for a year while they did an ethics investigation. But now we have the real story. On March the 2nd, Devin Nunes went to a skiff at the White House where he saw Trump and members of his transition team being surveilled and unmasked. Nunes saw the transcripts of the conversations of Trump and people on his transition team who had been surveilled and unmasked. March the 2nd. He then goes to talk to Paul, Big Ears, Eddie Munster, Ryan, and informs him of what he just saw. And he says, we're going to have to really dig into this, but more importantly, I must go advise the president that he and his transition team were surveilled and unmasked. Which is exactly what he did. And then, which he did the next day, on March the 3rd of 2017. On March the 4th, 2017, Trump tweeted out, I just learned that Obama's been tapping my wires, and everybody went crazy. So that was the second time Trump had been told he'd been under surveillance. The first time was likely when Mike Rogers told him that he was under surveillance, in which case he moved out of Trump Tower. Then on March 3rd, we get Nunes coming and telling Trump, hey, I was over at a skiff. You and members of your transition team have all been surveilled and unmasked. That's what led Trump to come out on March 4th with that tweet. March 4th, 2017. And if, for those of you who've been watching my videos for a long time, you know that's what started TowerGate. March 4th, 2017. I got up on a Saturday morning. It was all over the news. Trump's crazy, claiming Obama spied on him. I watched it for 2 days. Trump never backed down. And finally, on March the 6th of 2017, 2 days after the tweet, after Trump had never backed down from that, I said, you know what? There's no way Trump's this crazy that he would make that accusation without having something to back it up. He knows something. Something's going on. And if this turns out to be true, that he was being surveilled and unmasked, that the Obama administration was wiretapping him or surveilling him, this will be bigger than Watergate. And that's when I decided to do TowerGate videos to cover this story. March 6, 2017, I did the first TowerGate video. I didn't call it TowerGate until 3 days later, March 9th. But the first 3 or 4 videos I did were about this, based on Trump's tweet. Which was all based on Nunes going over and telling Trump that he had just been to the skiff and he had seen the transcripts. Trump and his team being surveilled and unmasked. Then, what happened? Nunes got in a little trouble and he was forced to resign as head of the committee while he underwent an ethics investigation. And we have been led all this time to believe that it was because of actions taken by Adam Bug-Eye-Fool Schiff. But now we know that the person who forced Nunes from heading that committee for a year while he underwent an ethics investigation was Paul Big Ears Eddie Munster Ryan. It was Paul Ryan that forced Nunes to step down as head of that committee for a year while he underwent an ethics investigation, because he went and told Trump what he saw in that skiff, despite the fact that Devin Nunes told Big Ears Eddie Munster Paul Ryan the day before what he had seen, and that he was going to have to go inform Trump. And when he did it, Paul Ryan forced him off his leadership position in the House Intelligence Committee and put him under an ethics investigation.